The story begins with a man injecting green liquid into an egg yolk, which quickly splits into two. The scene then shifts to Elizabeth Sparkle, a beautiful model and TV show host. She was once adored by fans, but over time people lost interest in her, and the star built in her honor broke down, symbolizing her fading fame. Now in her 50s, Elizabeth continues to host her show, but things have changed. After filming one day, she overhears the director in the men's washroom saying she's no longer attractive and that he plans to replace her with a younger, more beautiful host. These words crush Elizabeth, and she's forced to face the reality of her aging looks and declining popularity. Distraught, Elizabeth drives home, but her mind is clouded by the director's harsh words. She gets into a terrible car accident but miraculously escapes unharmed. Later at the hospital, a nurse gives her clothes and leaves her a message with a flash drive labeled, "The Substance." Curious, Elizabeth runs the drive at home and learns about a magical fluid that can make an old person young again. However, this transformation comes with rules. Both the old and young bodies must be activated every 7 days, and the young body needs daily injections derived from the old body's spine. Initially dismissing this as a scam, Elizabeth throws the flash drive away. But that night, she's overwhelmed with sadness over her lost youth and decides to order the substance. The mysterious person on the other end gives her a secret address and a call card. The next morning, Elizabeth reads a newspaper ad about auditions for her replacement, which deepens her despair. She also finds a black envelope with instructions leading her to a hidden locker room. Using the access card, she retrieves a box containing the serum, a stabilizer kit, and supplies for maintaining both her old and young bodies. At home, Elizabeth hesitates but eventually injects the green fluid into herself, unsure of what will happen. First, nothing happened, but soon after she experienced unbearable pain, and her eyes felt like they would burst. Her eyeballs doubled in size and suddenly, her back started splitting open. From her old body, a young and stunning version of herself emerged. This new version of Elizabeth, full of youthful beauty, stared at her reflection in disbelief. She couldn't believe that the substance had worked so perfectly. Now in her young form, Elizabeth tended to her old body by connecting a food bag to keep it alive. She marveled at her newfound beauty all night. The next morning, however, she woke up to a nosebleed, which frightened her. She remembered the instructions. To keep her young body active, she needed to extract the special substance from her old body's backbone and inject it into herself daily. Acting quickly, she performed the procedure and returned to her youthful, radiant self. Excited about her transformation, Elizabeth, now using the name So, decided to audition for the same show she was previously removed from. Her stunning beauty left everyone speechless, including the director, who immediately selected her. To cover her secret, So lied, claiming she needed to visit her sick mother in the village every week. The director agreed, and So started enjoying her new life as the show's star. Her beauty quickly garnered her a massive following, with billboards and ads featuring her image all over the city. As days passed, So remembered she had to shift bodies every 7 days. On the 7th day, she reactivated her old body while putting the young body to rest. Afterward, she continued working but felt humiliated by the director, who treated her poorly. Despite her hurt feelings, she remained focused. One day, while reading the newspaper, So received an envelope from the company that supplied the substance. It contained a refill kit, which she collected. She activated her young body again and enjoyed her glamorous life. Worried about her secret being discovered, So decided to break a wall in her house and create a hidden room to store her old body. Her work was so noisy that it annoyed her neighbors. When one came to complain, So, instead of resolving the issue, charmed them with her beauty and dismissed them. Once the hidden room was complete, So stored her old body inside. She also removed all photos of her younger self as Elizabeth, determined to erase her past. Her new life was thrilling, and she was fully immersed in the pleasures her young body brought her. But she lost track of time and forgot that the day to shift bodies had arrived. Her old body, running out of food, was deteriorating, and so had to act quickly to maintain the cycle. So brought her friend home one day, and while she was busy with her work, she suddenly felt blood dripping from her nose. A strange sensation ran through her body, and she realized it was time to shift into her old body. But greed took over, and instead of shifting, she decided to stay in her new body a little longer. So extracted all the substance from Elizabeth's old body and injected it into herself. It made her feel better, but what would happen to Elizabeth's body was yet to be seen. So managed to stay in her new body for 7 more days before finally shifting back. When she returned to Elizabeth's old body, she discovered that one of her fingers had melted. It happened because she had delayed the body switch. Worried, Elizabeth called the company and explained the situation. She asked for a solution to fix her broken finger, but the company told her there was none. "What's done is done," they said, warning her that both bodies were connected as one. She had to be careful in the future. Elizabeth picked up her new refill kit and later went to a restaurant. There, she noticed an old man behaving strangely toward her. She observed a mark on his hand, the same one she had seen on a nurse at the hospital. To her shock, this old man turned out to be the older version of that nurse. He asked her, "Has your new body started eating you yet?" Frightened by his words, Elizabeth fled from the restaurant and returned home. Determined to feel good even in her old body, Elizabeth decided to dress up beautifully. She put on stunning clothes, did her makeup, and tried to look like her new version. But when she stepped out, she saw Sue's posters everywhere. The sight shattered her confidence. In a moment of despair, she ruined her makeup, messed up her hair, and spiraled into depression. Feeling miserable, she ate a lot of food and then went to sleep. The next day, Elizabeth finally switched her body and went to work on her show. During the shoot, something strange happened. A hump appeared on her lower body. Confused and alarmed, she left the set and went to the washroom. As she examined the hump, she discovered that it was a chicken, the same one she had eaten the night before. Shocked, she woke up suddenly. It was all just a dream. In reality, Elizabeth had already switched her body that morning and headed to her show. But when she arrived, she found the crew packing up. The team informed her that the show was being cancelled. Scared and disheartened, Elizabeth approached the director, who surprisingly turned her fear into joy by reassuring her. Sue was told she wouldn't have to do the ordinary show anymore. Instead, she would host the New Year's Eve event. When she heard this, she was overjoyed and immediately said yes without thinking much. However, New Year's Eve was also the day she was supposed to switch back to Elizabeth's body. Ignoring this, Sue decided to stay in her new body for several more days. To maintain this body, Sue kept taking stabilizers from Elizabeth's old body and injecting them into herself. This began to seriously affect Elizabeth's body. After many days, when Sue finally switched back, she found that Elizabeth's body had aged significantly. The excessive removal of serum had turned Elizabeth completely old. Seeing her deteriorated condition, Elizabeth started to resent Sue deeply. Elizabeth became so upset that she destroyed all of Sue's photos in her house and even covered her mirrors, which reflected the billboards of Sue's perfect new body. Feeling distraught, Elizabeth called the company for help. She asked if there was any way to restore her body to how it was before, and explained that she had removed the serum for Sue's newer version. The company reminded her that she had been warned before. What's done is done, and nothing could be changed. However, they added that if she wanted, she could stop the process and live her life in her old body. But Elizabeth refused to accept this. Later, Elizabeth got a call from Sue, and she switched back to Sue's body again. Once in Sue's body, she took more serum from Elizabeth's old body and injected it into herself. For 3 months, Elizabeth lived happily in Sue's perfect body. Then, on the night before New Year's Eve, the fluid ran out. That night, Sue went to a boy's house. Suddenly, she felt her body breaking down, as if her organs were bursting. Panicked, she tried to extract more serum from Elizabeth's old body, but this time, nothing came out. Terrified, she called the company and asked what to do. The company informed her that she had used up all the serum and would have to wait for a new batch. Until then, she had no choice but to switch back to her old body. Sue was devastated after the call. She began the process of switching back, but the boy overheard the strange sounds coming from the bathroom and grew curious. He went to check what was happening, but Sue, now back in Elizabeth's old body, quickly locked the bathroom door before he could see her. Inside, Sue was unrecognizable. She was extremely old, bald, and struggling to move. It was a horrifying sight, and she felt trapped in her deteriorated body. Elizabeth was very worried and called the company. She told them she wanted to end all of this. The company agreed and instructed her to use the termination fluid. Elizabeth's body looked terrible, but she managed to hide it under her clothes. She then went to get the termination substance. After bringing it back, Elizabeth was ready to inject it into Sue's body. But she remembered the company's warning. If she injected the termination substance, she would remain in the same body forever. Thinking about this, she hesitated and decided not to inject the serum. Instead, she looked at herself in the mirror and grew furious with Sue, blaming her for everything. In her anger, Elizabeth injected half the serum into Sue's body. She kept the other half for herself because she wanted to host a big show soon and receive an award. She wanted to relive the admiration she used to get. Out of greed, she held on to the remaining serum. Elizabeth then tried to wake Sue up, shaking her repeatedly, but Sue didn't respond. Frustrated, Elizabeth decided to switch bodies, but the switch didn't work. In desperation, she removed the activator from her own backbone and used it on Sue. Sue finally woke up. As soon as Sue realized that Elizabeth intended to terminate her, she became enraged. In her fury, she attacked Elizabeth violently, hitting her until Elizabeth's head crashed, killing her instantly. After killing Elizabeth, Sue felt regret and realized she had done something terrible. Without Elizabeth, Sue could no longer get the activator substance. Sue cleaned up the scene and left for her New Year program. The crowd greeted her with great enthusiasm, and she felt a moment of happiness. But suddenly something felt off. Blood started dripping from her nose, and she panicked. Rushing to the washroom, she opened her mouth and found 2 of her teeth falling out. When she touched her teeth, 2 more broke and fell. Sue realized that because Elizabeth was dead, her body had become hollow and was falling apart. To survive, she needed the activation serum. She hurried back to her house to get it. However, while in the elevator, one of her nails and an ear fell off. Overcome with fear, she tried to stay calm when someone else entered the elevator. Pretending everything was fine, she avoided showing her condition and waited quietly. As soon as she reached her floor, Sue rushed home, terrified and desperate to save herself. Sue, in desperation, applied the activation serum to herself. But nothing happened. Then she remembered she had stored 2 special substances, meant to be used only once. Without a second thought, she injected one of them into herself. As soon as she did, Sue was overcome with excruciating pain. Her body tore apart at the waist, and from within emerged a horrifying mixture, a hybrid of Sue and Elizabeth. This strange variant looked like a terrifying monster. Sue had become a hybrid, her mental state shattered. She couldn't comprehend what she had become or whether she could face the world. Desperate to maintain some normalcy, she covered her hybrid face with a picture of her original self and went to the show. But as she stepped on stage and approached the microphone, the picture slipped off her face. The audience saw her horrifying hybrid form, creepy and monstrous. Terrified, the crowd screamed and fled, calling her a monster. Amidst the chaos, a man armed with a baseball bat struck Sue's hybrid face. Her face fell apart and blood gushed out, spreading across the studio floor. Everyone ran for their lives as Sue's body began to split into grotesque pieces. The pieces moved like insects, scattering everywhere. On the floor beneath her broken body, a strange star-shaped mark of Elizabeth appeared. Sue's entire body disintegrated, leaving behind only her face, lying on the floor, gazing up at the sky with a chilling smile. Blood pooled around it, creating a haunting scene. Suddenly, more blood poured out, staining the studio further. The next morning, workers arrived and cleaned up the horrifying aftermath, erasing the remnants of the monstrous events.
In a world where bodies shift, dreams and nightmares start to drift. Serums flow, the rules unwind, a fragile edge of the human mind. Sue and Elizabeth caught in the game, chasing glory, chasing fame. But the serum speaks twists and turns, a fire ignites and the monster burns. Serum of shadow, secrets untold, a dangerous dance, the brave and bold. Faces fade, identities break, what's left behind, a monstrous wake. Hybrid screams fill the air, broken mirrors, blank stares. A monster rises from the pain, half a Sue, half insane. Crowds run screaming, fear takes hold, a chilling tale, dark and cold. Pulsing floors, shattered dreams, the serum's curse, tearing seams. Serum of shadow, secrets untold, a dangerous dance, the brave and bold. Faces fade, identities break, what's left behind, a monstrous wake. Under the spotlight, the truth is seen, a hybrid horror, a shattered queen. Smiling face on the studio floor, the serum whispers, there's always more. What's the cost of chasing stars? Losing yourself, bearing scars. A haunting song, a twisted rhyme, the serum wins every time. Serum of shadow, secrets untold, a dangerous dance, the brave and bold. Faces fade, identities break, what's left behind, a monstrous wake. So beware the serum's tempting call, one injection could ruin it all. In the mirror, a stranger's gaze, a monster born from the serum's haze. Serum of shadows, the tale persists, a chilling echo that still